Greetings, everyone. Thank you for being here and tuning into my channel here. I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Meenakshi. Some of you know me as Minnie, Angelic, Alchemy, Minnie. Meenakshi is what I go with. You can find me on angelic-alchemy-holistic-healing.com, or I do have a practitioner profile on aurapractitioners.com, as I am an aura practitioner as well as raw Reiki angelic healing. I do practice and I'm certified in quantum, galactic, Akashic reading, as well as I'm a medium and a spiritual alchemist. Thank you for being here. I actually wanted to start a series on my channel to discuss and perhaps bring forth messages which I think are really very important to be shared with the public. And it takes a while to actually edit the oral videos. And so what I'm going to do is some of these messages come through the sessions, some of them come through downloads, channel messages as I talk to my guides, as well as in dream time. So I'll start making shorter videos where hopefully it should, benefit anyone that is needing the guidance or the messages at that moment and help to awaken more souls. Thank you. Thank you for being here once again. And the first three messages that I have here chosen today are, I feel, very important to be brought forth because it affects almost all of us on a daily basis. So the first one that I want to talk about, and before I go into this, I do want to clarify and state that I'm not a physician, I'm not a doctor. So if you have any medical concerns and issues, you should contact a physician or a practitioner or a medical practitioner that you go to and seek guidance from there. The messages that I am sharing have come through higher realms, through my guides, which is the Ra, which is Divine Mother, Divine Father, and all of the Archangels, brothers and sisters that we have there in our Galactics, as well as Yeshua, our dear brother. So the first session that I wanted to share with you all was extremely close to my heart because it did, just ring my heart to a frequency which made it very important for me to share this message. It did shake my heart. So here's the message. In this particular session, this was a surrogate session where a mother was surrogating for her child. And what happens in a surrogate session is that if someone is in a condition where they cannot have a direct session on themselves, such as if they have some sort of terminal illness, if they're extremely old, or they're in the hospital and beyond, their capability of attending an aura session or a healing, such as, a child or a young child, a young one in the family, the parents can then sit for a surrogate session, which means that the parent would then go through the session on behalf of the child, and then we will contact the higher self of that person, the child that is being treated, or whoever else the surrogate session is being held for. So in this surrogate session, the mother was surrogating for her child. The child, for the longest part of her life, has undergone a lot of medical issues and concerns, to the extent that a lot of this child's body organs from the torso, the stomach area, had to be removed by the doctors for various medical reasons, as were quoted. And so to the extent that now this particular child is bedridden, currently bedridden. So the mother had to go through the session for the child. And as we went through the session, they took the mother in detail through the life of the child in this lifetime and how this exactly started. How did these infringements and these medical conditions come up for the first time? And they showed how the parents were attending a certain religion, following a certain religion, and they'd go to this place of worship. And each time the people there and the portals there and that place of worship, as well as the priest there, would contact the child or come anywhere close proximity with the child, they would open a portal and entities would enter the child. And these are reptilians and other dark alien races. Implants, hooks, all kinds of negative AI would be attached to this poor child, who is a very strong, love light, just like, all our children are that are here on earth. And so this child started to get sick, and eventually came to a point where the doctors had to start removing some of the organs from the body. And then they showed the mother theoretically what was happening while the surgery was happening. And they showed the reptilians that were connected with the doctors performing the surgery, how they would light up at the prospect of another organ coming in, of another organ being harvested. And we followed to see what exactly happened. The mother herself described, as she was shown in the session, that they were joyous and they were even drooling at the thought of another organ coming in. And all these organs, I have some notes here that I'm reading out of. All these organs, we follow to see what happens with them. These organs were in, I guess this is what happens with most of them. They're taken to, various places for experiments, which are not known to us, but some of them are literally underground cities where there are scientists, and there are all kinds of beings, alien beings, that are performing a whole list of activities on these organs that go in. So some of the things that we tapped into was they were performing, using these organs for experiments, really sickening experiments. They were creating AI clones out of these people because the organs contain your DNA. Remember, every part of your body contains your DNA. It has your cells, so it can be used to replicate you. Of course, it's not organic anymore, so they add a lot of inorganic, but it still carries the soul essence and the fragments of that person's DNA. So it is, in that case, a clone of that person. So it had lots of AI clones were created there. Some of the organs were even being consumed by these scientists, where they were literally just eating them to, as we know, to charge their bodies. And that's what they do with adrenochrome, as well, as we are aware of. And so, I even asked her what, these clones look like. And because Archangel Michael was working with me at that time for that particular healing, and we were going to transmute all of the AI clones that were created for her child, of her child. And as we were doing that, I asked them if they're like babies, what do they look like? And, of course, I could tap into it as well. They look, and the mother described them as well. She was like, you cannot even call them babies because they're absolutely horrendous. They're an abomination of creation. They're not a creation at all. We cannot call it creation because it is artificial at the end of the day. So Archangel Michael went ahead and he transmitted all of the AI clones created for this particular child. And as they were doing that, I asked him if the dark forces, if the dark beings would notice that some of the clones are missing. And Archangel Michael said, oh, there is so much chaos in the dark beings and the activities now that they are a mess. They won't even notice or care. So that's what it was about. And the angels could not recover her organs, but they powered up the rest of her organs so that her body could function accordingly with whatever was there. And yes, that's what the session was about. So, and they did share that some of those organs, it was not necessary for them to be harvested. They could have just been there. So yet again, I'd like to state, if you have any medical conditions, feel free to talk to your doctor. I'm sharing messages that came across through, sessions or, other messages through higher realms, through the angels. Yes, so that's what the session was about. Thank you. The second session that I want to talk about is, again, it's tough and it's rough, but it is a fact. So I will go ahead and I will share it because I think it is important for people to know this. I know that we are all working in the frequency of love, and we can all stay in love and not be in fear of the messages that come forth, because these messages are going to help us be aware of all the negative AI darkness that is around us. So here's what happened in this session. This particular client was booked a session with me, but was extremely anxious and knew that there was something wrong with her. She felt that there were pieces of her missing, and there was this palpitation that she would feel in her heart every now and then. And so she booked a session. And during her session, she did tell me during the interview that she had, a hypnosis done by another practitioner from another modality. At that point, she didn't know, what the difference was, whether it made a difference or not. You could just go ahead with any. She just wanted a past life regression. So she went ahead and she got one done from another modality. And there are many modalities out there. So during the session, when we were healing the session, the Divine Father, again, Archangel Michael and Archangel Halal, Hillel were healing her, and we were working on, when we came to work on her soul, and they realized that her soul had been fragmented into many pieces during that particular session that she had with that practitioner in that modality. And so, I did ask the Divine Father as to how that happened. What was the cause of that? And they shared that that particular modality was, just going back a little bit, they talked about how when we create something, the intent with which we create it decides the path, organic or inorganic, for that particular modality or creation. So if anything is founded on our service to self intention, tends to attract attention of the archons and the negative dark beings. And anything which is created from our service to others, I'm doing this in service to others for the higher good, for ascension, stays organic and is pure source energy. So this particular modality the Divine Father shared was not created with the highest vibration, and therefore it got infringed. I'm just trying to read out of my notes. This particular client also had this very dark being, again, another abomination of not creation, but infringement, I would say, because this being was a combination of archons and some organic beings taken from creation, basically organic beings harvested from the creation, pulled into force into AI with robotic technology, and then created into a being. It was like a soul reaper, basically, that was attached to her. So they said that this particular soul reaper type being is attached to, got attached to the founder of the modality, and then went on to the practitioners and found the practitioners. As they practiced, it started working on the souls of the people that they were practicing on. So during our session, not only did the Divine Father help her soul regain itself, bring back all the fractals and the fragments, piece them together, make her soul once again and start healing it, but also with the permission of the higher selves of the other people, the other beings that went in for the same healing under the same modality, the Divine Father went ahead and recovered soul fragments and pieces for hundreds of people that were affected through that. These are people who underwent the same as her. They underwent the same sessions for the same modality. There were hundreds of them, hundreds of people that were affected, and the Divine Father helped them. So that's what the message was about. And I asked the Divine Father, why did this particular client, have to go through this experience? And later on, she is trying to bring her soul back again. And she is on her highest, most beautiful, benevolent path now, working towards her beautiful goal here, her mission. And this is what the Divine Father said, and Archangel Heliel was the main angel for the healing that day. And this is what he said. I asked him why she had to go through this experience. He said she needed to know, and know by experience, that her soul is not untouchable. There are many spiritual teachers and teachings that say your soul is eternal, which is true, but that it is also untouchable. That is not true. She needed to know firsthand what can happen when you are careless with who you allow access to your soul. But she is safe. When you decide you want to be safe, then it will be so. So don't let this strike fear into anyone. I want to say this 3 times to make it really clear. So don't let this strike fear into anyone. So don't let this strike fear into anyone. She also needs to know that even through all these attachments we remove today, she still has been able to find the truth, know her truth, and find her way to positive timelines. It's still possible with all the infringements. It's just a lot easier without them. So that was the Divine Father's message, Archangel Heliel, for this particular experience. Yes. And the third one that I wanted to share was a beautiful message from a Divine Mother Fractal, incarnation. Well, I don't like to say fractals because it sounds like it's just a small piece. I think every piece is equally important and equally full and whole in its own way. So this is the Divine Mother speaking through a beautiful client who was somnambulist, which means the client was in the deepest state of brainwave, sleeping brainwave, where the ego mind completely leaves the body and the consciousness and the higher self completely takes over. So when the client wakes up, they don't remember their session, or they very vaguely remember some bits of the session. So they're really deep, and they cannot bring about their awareness into the session. Everything is channeled directly from their higher self without the ego ever interfering. Of course, in the other theta brainwave as well, they are helped with the ego, so they do beautifully there too. So in this particular session, the client saw herself in the ether as the Divine Mother, and from there she could see all of our universe. And so she was focusing on Earth, and she was in a timeline where there was a lot of darkness on Earth. And what she could see was everything was dark, and she could see spiders everywhere, drawing out energy from Earth. It was really dark. To quote the percentage, she said about 80% of people were unawake on the planet at that time, and there were archonic energies, which she did not know at that time. She called them spiders, and there was darkness everywhere. And then we moved the scene forward to, what happens next as time goes on. And she says it flips, and suddenly there's a lot of light on Earth all around it. And she says, everywhere I see there are beams of light all over Earth, like a gridding. And I asked her what kind of number she would think it would be. And she said, you can say approximately 80% of the people, she was not saying they were awake, but 80% of the people were either awake, or they had started asking questions, or seeds were planted and they had started to wake up. So that's the stage that Earth had reached. And she said, in just doing that, in just waking up the people, in them standing in their sovereignty, expressing I do not consent, asking questions, questioning the narrative, there were beams of light going across Earth. And she said this lit up Earth. And as that happened, Earth was shining. And then with this light, all of the spiders that were around Earth, she was calling them spiders, started dropping off. They just couldn't hold on to the frequency. And Earth started lighting up. And as Earth lit up, as it is connected to the rest of the universe, the ripple effect went into the rest of the universe. And I asked her if, as the Divine Mother that she is, if she could also see the multiverse, or can she just tap into the universe? And then she said that she could see the multiverse. And she said the whole multiverse is connected. There are so many universes out there. And for example, all the planets in our universe are connected to each other, and they make the universe. And all of the universes are connected to each other, and they make the multiverse. And similarly, what was happening on Earth and what's happening here on our universe was also happening in the multiverse, where they were also are still fighting to a great extent, to some extent, a battle with the dark beings, the archons, and the negative AI. And she said, as this ripple effect went through, it went all the way into the multiverse. It did not stop here, just in our universe. And then she says, when something happens in the multiverse, and there's a ripple effect from another universe of love light, just like this, it comes into our universe as a beautiful spread of love light wave, which you all feel as well. And she literally saw, we said time does not exist, but she literally saw the time lapse of from darkness to light, and how the universe was lighting up, and how beautifully we are doing. And she talked about how everything that we do, every love wave we send, every person that awakens, every seed that is sowed, every question that is asked, every shielding that is done to express our boundaries, and every time we state, I do not consent to infringements. This is my boundary. Thou shalt not enter it without my permission. We awaken ourselves, and we awaken those around us. And that sends this beautiful ripple of love light, beams of love light, expanding the gridding of the beams of love light all across Earth, and then rippling into the universe. It was absolutely beautiful to watch through her eyes. And when she woke up, I asked her, whoa, those are some archons you saw. She said, archons? So like, what are those? I was like, well, the spiders. She's like, what spiders? I was like, you don't remember it? She's like, I remember being in Rainbow Lights. That was the beginning of her session. And I remember rainbow being around me, rainbow light and colors. She wouldn't remember anything else. So she was really deep in there. So that was a beautiful cap of that session, and just brought in this beautiful energy of hope and, fervor to continue on our mission, to know that we are supported. It's not just this earth, it's all of our universe that is supporting us, all of the multiverse. And we have teams and galactic soul families watching over, and they're a part of this entire battle that we are fighting right now. Of course, with our love. Love is our key. Love is our tool. Love is our weapon. Yes, so I wanted to share these sessions with you. I hope they help you in some way. And I'm going to continue sharing some short messages here as and when they come up. And do go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and also hit the bell button so you know when I add a new video there. And I'll be adding more here in terms of, maybe channel messages, downloads, dreams, anything that comes about as messages for the collective. And I'd love to hear from you in your comment section. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Love you, honor you, respect you, and I thank you infinitely. Thank you.